Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Lechtech Musa podcast. We continue with the Pele Yoeitz. We are on page 703 in the art scroll, day 248 in Hachzik. We continue talking about the inyan of lending money. And here we go. We discussed yesterday, if a person doesn't have a mashkin, he can't give you a collateral, and a person has no money, you're not sure what's going to be, at least we said take a guarantor. Make sure that there's an arv that's going to repay the loan if the borrower defaults. So we continue on that note. So what if you can't find an arv, you can't find that? And if the man asks for a sum that's modest enough that if he were never to return the lender, if he was never to return the money to the lender, and he can carry the loss, then the borrower can presume that he's an honest man. He's asking for a small amount. He needs to buy bread and eggs and milk for his. So that you can do. You don't need an arav. You don't need to start making shtaris and edim because it's basically tzedakah. Says the Pele Yoeitz, it can be nice and you can give him a hava, but don't do it over and over and over until each one is respectfully paid up, because then it can get taken advantage of. Says the Pele Yoeitz understands the reality of things. Swindlers are rampant. What do? They repay small loans repeatedly 4 or 5 times until they develop a rapport, they develop a relationship, and then he says, "Oh, lend me a little bit more money," and then before you know, you give him a $100,000 loan, $1 million loan. You say, "Oh, this guy always pays me back," but you forgot that he was borrowing $5 for milk and eggs. He wasn't borrowing $1 million to buy a building in New York. Therefore, a person should always be careful not to go out of bounds of what he can afford. Okay. Now, the question is, what happens when there's a known swindler? So what do? What does the Torah tell us to do in this situation? If the guy is known to be a swindler, never lend him any money without a full collateral. But in order to ensure that his Yetzer Hara doesn't convince him that everyone's a swindler, we could become jaded, become distorted, and just label everyone as a swindler. So what do? A person has to make a true shikol, he has to make a true cheshbon nefesh and say, is this guy really a swindler or is he not? Is it coming from the atzas Yoeitz? Because the Yetzer is going to say, just forget it. Don't lend anyone money. Everyone's a ganef. Everyone's a liar. Everyone's a shakran. And this is a tremendous yisoid, something that we've spoken about in the past. A person always has to bring God into every single equation. Over here we're discussing if a person needs to make a shikol, he has to decide whether the person is a trustworthy person or not. And then the atzas Yoeitz is coming in and telling you just cross everyone off, don't give everyone money. The Torah has a different way of going about. The Torah says sit down, make a shikol nefesh, make a calculation, speak to other people, do your shtalis, because there's a mitzvah over here, and the way Hashem wants us to conduct ourselves, the way Hashem wants us to operate as Yidden is ish esrei yazer. We have to help one another. We have to be mindful. We have to bear the plight. We have to bear the challenges, financial, mentally, whatever it is. We have to be there for other people. We want Hashem to bestow kindness, compassion to us. Hashem needs us to activate and be that compassionate, that kind person to others. And therefore, when the atzas Yoeitz floods our mind, he floods our conscience saying, cross everyone off, don't do it. What does the Pele Yoeitz tell us? Many times, when these things crop up, we always have a calculation. Should I do it? Should I not do it? I would just say it's easier not. This is a big yisoid. We always have to imagine for himself, between him and his master, the real truth. This is a guiding gem for everything in life. Not just who I can lend money to, not just who I can trust, but in all of the inevitable calculations, the cheshbonis, the questions, the uncertainties that we're always thinking back and forth. We always have to try to dig, try to reach the core, the essence. And how do we do that? It's with his bonus, sitting down, reflecting and thinking, not what I want, not what other people are going to think, stripping away all the layers, stripping away all the preconceived notions, stripping away all the sheker, all the falsities, all of that, and thinking about one thing and one thing only. And that's Beinoi levein koinoi al derech emes. Always be thinking, what does the Eibishter want? What's the correct thing for me? And yes, we have to seek out Das Torah. We have to ask our Rabbanim, our Rabbeim, those that guide us, of course. But that's along with never losing sight of was will the Eibishter. What does Hashem want from me? Ma Hashem shoel mimecha. What does Hashem ask from you? What does He ask from me? And when we think of this, when we bring this into the equation, many times all of the confusion, all of the blur can diminish. Maybe not completely, but it gets peeled away when you bring the Eibishter into the equation. Always be thinking. Try to tap into that, try to think about that, and let that shape your decisions, let that shape the way you operate. And when we do that, then we'll reach that derech emes. That's in regards to lending money. Now says the Pele Yoeitz, if a man is a pauper and asks him for a small amount as a loan, you always try to give someone whatever you can, and if you can't, make sure that you do it in a bekavadik way. Make sure that you don't just walk out, you don't just slam the door in front of the guy. If you give it a small amount of money, just say, okay, take it, and you don't have to pay it back. You have all these yisurim over here. So what the Pele Yoeitz is telling us is that one certainly has to be careful, never to be mevazeh someone, never to make someone feel ashamed of themselves. A person should say, don't be upset if you can't pay me back, if it's possible. It makes no difference to me. This is a noble level over here, but I'm giving it to you now, and it's as if you already paid me back. And if you're able to pay, if Hashem expands your limits in wealth, then you pay me back. When one makes a loan in this manner, another important, tremendous thing over here is the pasuk in Tehillim tells us, the righteous one is generous and gives. We never can forget that if we act kind, compassionate to others, Hashem has many ways. Then Hashem can repay in many different ways. He'll never become upset if he lends a small amount to a person at the time of need, and the man takes it from him and uses it up. He has complete faith that Hashem has already placed the money back in his sack with added strength. He will not bear any ill will in his heart towards his brother, the destitute one. A person should do this obviously in a very measured way. He shouldn't put himself in a situation where he's going to get hurt. But if a person can give away money and he starts thinking, oh no, how am I going to get it? But he says, you know what, Lamaisa, I can handle it. I can give him $100. I can give him $500, whatever that number is. A person should not forget Hashem is monitoring. Hashem oversees everything. And when we extend ourselves, then Hashem says, Yamin b'emunah shlema, it reminds the Pele Yoeitz, Shekvar Hashem som kaspai v'amtachtoi b'yaser toiv. Already before you extended yourself, already before you gave him the check, you paid the credit card. A real Maimin, what does he realize? What does he think? He says, Hashem, I know you're looking. Hashem, I know. I know you know what's going on in my heart. Hashem, I know that you see I extended. I'm stretching myself as much as possible for others, for your children. Midah keneged midah. Yamim be'emunah shalema. A person should have utmost certainty and faith. Shekvar Hashem som kaspai bam tachtoi. That Hashem already secured and placed the money in his sack. Not just tit for tat, 500 for 500, but says the Pele Yoeitz, b'yeser seis, with added strength. When we do for Hashem, midah keneged midah, Hashem has a very different way of paying us back. It's not just tit for tat. It's not just dollar for dollar. There's a relationship. There's love. There's a moon over here. And when we please God, we never know how God can pay us back. It should be tenfold. But that's what the Pele Yoeitz over here is teaching us.